In this video, we're going to learn how to measure resistance, voltage, and current using a breadboard with a power supply and a multimeter. So the first thing we want to do is go to our Tinkercad account, and we're going to go to Designs, and we're going to create a new design, and we want to create a circuit. Okay. So this is going to bring up our circuit design, and what we can do is give this a meaningful name. So I'm going to change this to series connection. And if you come over here to components, instead of, by default it does basic, but I like to do all. So that way we can see what all the components are. And the first thing we want to grab is a breadboard. So if I left click and bring the breadboard over, this is my breadboard. And for this video, we're going to use 3 resistors. I'm going to go ahead and get the power supply under instruments. So again, left click, bring up the power supply, and we'll just leave it at 5 volts for right now. And the multimeter, I'm going to bring that here. Okay, now notice that the multimeter, you have 3 modes. You have amperage, voltage, and resistance. So we're going to select resistance for the first measurement. So now we need to get some resistors. So up here in the top, we grab a resistor. Okay, and I'll place it here. Now, if I select the resistor and hit the R button, I can rotate it, which is what I want to do, because I don't want it connected vertically, because that will connect both leads together. So I want there to be separation between this column and this column. So this resistor, I'm going to place, say, here. And if I left click, it will give me the resistance. So we're going to stick with the default 1K ohm. Then I'm going to grab another resistor, left click and drag, rotate. Okay. But for this one, I'm going to change this to 470 ohms. So 470 ohms. And I'll move it down a little bit. And then for the last resistor, I'm going to make this 3.3K ohms and move it down. Okay. So this is going to be our circuit for this video. Now what I could do is move these. I could move this resistor up here, because notice that these are connected, and can move this one here. And so because this column is connected and this column is connected, all of those insertion points are connected, this would be fine. But I'm just going to give myself a little more space. So I just want to space this out a little bit. So that is what I'm going to do. All right. And what I'm going to do now is just use wires. So if you left click here and then left click here, you create a wire. You can actually change the color. You can change the wire we want normal here. You can change the color if you wanted a different color. Okay, like say blue. Okay, or maybe, well, whatever color you want. So I'll just leave this at blue. And then I'm going to create another wire there. Okay, so this does the same connections. So I'm just using a wire to bridge the gap between here and between here and here. Okay? So the first thing, we're going to measure three things. We're going to measure resistance, voltage, and current. So to measure resistance, we want to make sure that the mode is on resistance. Okay? And then we just simply connect our probes to the beginning here. Okay, I'm going to change this to black there. So black is going to go here, and then red will go here. Okay. So I don't have to change these colors, but I like doing red for positive and then black for negative. Okay, and then just simply hit start simulation. So when I start the simulation, I'm going to get 4.77 k ohms. So that's going to be 1,000 plus 470 plus 3,300. So that will give us 4,770, or 4.77 k ohms. And you can see here the R for resistance. So I'm measuring resistance. So the important thing to note also is that you never measure resistance with power connected. So we're just measuring resistance with no power, and I'm measuring from start to finish. Okay, so that is all there is to measuring resistance. So I'm going to stop the simulation. I'm going to disconnect. So I just hit delete, select the wire and hit delete. I'm going to change this now to voltage. So now this is going to measure voltage. And so I'm now going to connect power. Okay. And so now instead of connecting these leads to the beginning and the end, I'm going to connect power here. So here's positive, and negative is going to go over here. And again, I'm going to change this to black. Okay. So now I've got power connected, so the current's going to flow out of the positive. It's going to flow through resistor 1, through the wire, through resistor 2, through the wire, through resistor 3, and then back to the negative. And I got to figure out what voltage I want to measure. So I want to measure the voltage across all three resistors. So I'm going to do those excuse me, individually. So you could actually, I could grab 2 more meters and connect them all at the same time, but it kind of clutters up the work area. So I'm just going to do them individually. So let's start with resistor 1. So I'm going to bring down power, and I think I'm going to do control mouse wheel so I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, so if you hold down control and scroll, you can zoom in and out. Or I guess you don't need control, you just use the mouse wheel to scroll in and out. So that way I can kind of control these wires better. So here, I want this to go here, but I don't want to connect into this column here. See how the column lights up? I want to actually be in between rows here. And so then what I can do is bring this over and then come down there, and so I'll make this red. So now I'm going to measure from this resistor um, to this side. And again, I'm going to make this black just to make it so that it's on the negative. I mean, make it correspond to the negative. Again, the colors. I mean, the colors can be whatever you want, but it's just more consistent to use red and black in this way. All right, so now we're going to measure the voltage across this resistor. So I've got the red connected on the left side. I got the black connected on the right side. I've got this set for voltage. So this is going to measure 1.05 volts. Okay, 1.05 volts. And notice that our supply is 5 volts. So the first resistor is going to drop approximately 1 volt. Okay, and then you just simply do the same thing for the other two resistors. So now I want to take the red, the positive lead. I'm going to put it there for the second resistor. Then I'm going to take the black and put it here for the second resistor. Okay. So now I'm measuring the voltage across the second resistor. Okay, so I turn this on. So I get 493 millivolts, so approximately half a volt. So remember, we got about 1 volt across the first resistor. We get about half a volt across the second resistor, so that's about 1.5. So that means we should get about 3.5 for the second, or for the third resistor. So if we measure the third resistor, okay, we'll change this to red. And then let's bring this down here for this one. And we'll make this one black. So now the red is connected to the left side here. The black is connected to the right side. So this should be about 3.5. So 3.46 volts. So that all looks good. Okay, so that's how you measure voltage. And so you also could say that you're placing the meter in parallel with the component that you're measuring. Okay, and then for the last step, we want to measure current. So current is a little bit tricky. So we want to select amperage. And the thing about current is we have to actually open up the circuit at some point. And so essentially what we have to do is that we have to put a break. We have to basically disconnect the flow of the current and run it through the meter. So we can do that at different points, but probably the easiest to see is if I basically delete this wire. So now what happens is I have no connection between this point and this point. So the current would flow out of here and then go through resistor 1, but it can't because there's no path. So if I just put the meter, if I insert the meter in what's called series, then I can run the current through the meter, out of the meter, and back into the circuit. So this is probably the easiest way to view it. And so what I want to do is connect the meter so the current's going to run through the meter and then come back out of the meter. Okay. And go into resistor 2. So the current's going to flow out of here. It's going to go into resistor 1. It's going to come out of resistor 1, go into the meter, come out of the meter, come into resistor 2, and continue on. Okay? And now I've set this for amperage. Start simulation. So you can see we've got 1.05 milliamps. Now, it doesn't matter, like if I had connected the, let's say I had connected the negative to this side and the positive to this side, that would be okay, but it would just give me a negative reading. So in general, what you want to do is connect the red side to where the current's flowing in and the black side to where it's flowing out. If you reverse these and connect the black to where it's flowing in and the red to where it's flowing out, you'll just get a negative reading. It won't break anything, it just gives you a negative reading. And then lastly, so I could put this wire back in. Okay. I could delete this wire. Say, hey, we want to measure the current coming out of resistor 2 going into resistor 3. So we would do that this way. Okay, so now the current's coming out of the power supply. It's going into resistor 1. It's going into resistor 2. Now I've put a break here, so I'm going to run the current through the meter, out of the meter, into resistor 3. Okay, and we're going to also get 1.05 milliamps. Series circuit will have the same current, so that's not a surprise. And so that's how you would do that. So that's how you measure current. Okay, I'll put this wire back. Now I could have broken the circuit here or here. Okay, so I chose to break the circuit in these two places, but you could actually break the circuit. You could disconnect power and then run the current through the meter, out of the meter, into resistor 1, or coming out of resistor 4, I could have come into the meter, out of the meter, back to the power supply. So those are two other places where you could actually break the circuit. But I am going to leave that off for this video. Okay, so what we've learned in this video is how to set up a basic breadboard with resistors that are connected in series, and then how to measure resistance, voltage, and current.